Hi, I think this is going to be like my third attempt at trying to record something that is semi-coherent. I love this diagram because I think it is reflective of my thought processes right now. Thought processes. It's kind of all over the place. There is bits and pieces of all of this in my thoughts that I'm trying to pull together for our final project. And I know I don't have to, and thank you for saying that. I thank you again for saying also the fluidity of so many things, of the policy actors, and that there's just policy work, I think you also said. But anyway, just the fluidity, because I think that's also what's going on with me. And the other thing you said, what I wrote down was, don't get stuck in old dead white guys. And I think that was freeing for me as well, because you're right. I think I'm trying to fit everything within a box, and it is not working. So, um, yeah, fluidity of policy actors, I think is what I wrote down. So yeah, I love this diagram. What impacts me the most is this, where the school is in the center and there's all of these arrows, which to me kind of remind me of pointing fingers and accusations. It is painful. It's very sharp, which I feel like is what's happening within the schools. And there's pressure. I just see pressure all within the school. And everyone out here, I feel, is kind of not really taking on the responsibility of anything. They just point the finger at the school and say, well, it's the teacher's fault. I left the classroom there wasn't as much accountability and I don't know, but as what you were, it wasn't as prescriptive as when you were teaching. I left the classroom because I was where you were when you said that the teachers, if I can only affect one student, that's all that matters. And I'm like, hey, what about everybody else? Or even if you're affecting 90% of the students, I just couldn't bear the thought of the 10% that are falling behind. What do we do with those students? Which is kind of a bit with what I'm dealing with, the executive functioning, and with how the policies are affecting it. It's because I feel like we're getting more and more students who are being left behind. So as I kind of went through this, the readings and what you were lecturing about, it's crystallizing for me. I'm still not quite there yet, because at one point my focus was strictly here. What can we do here? How can we improve what's going on within the schools and making sure that children are able to perform better? What's kind of throwing me for a loop is up here, policy discourses, because I very often, weekly, monthly, have dinner and wine, and I'm constantly in touch with policymakers. So I have the ear of these policymakers, and maybe I need to utilize my access to these people to, on a broader level, impact what's happening within the schools. So I think that's kind of why there's so much shift happening within my head. That again, that I'm, this is why I'm struggling. But anyway, I had another thought, but I can't think of what it is right now. A little bit of like my father, who was a principal. My parents graduated from the Negro colleges in 1950. And back then it was so much more, here's some books, teach, go. Even when I graduated from Bowling Green in 1983, I graduated in deaf education and elementary education. Again, it was, here's curriculum, go. There wasn't the accountability, testing, all of that was not in existence when I went through my teacher education at BGSU. So so that came about later on. I was even a special ed teacher. When I wrote my IEPs, it was, here's my student, here's where they are now. In 9 months, how far do you think you can get them to progress? And so it was just my thought as to what they progressed. And I was held accountable to what I thought they could do. I wanted to make sure they could do it. So you didn't want to reach too high. You didn't want to reach too low. You just wanted to make sure that they were within shooting range, spitting distance of where you thought they could be. So, when I left and came back in I left teaching in 87, came back in 97 as a school counselor. And in that time, it was called proficiency testing had come about. So accountability was being ramped up. And dealing with the social and emotional impact of the pressure that was put on schools. And literally, I mean, I was a counselor for like 19 years, and the thought, it's just the pressure mounted more and more and more, working in charter schools. It's just unbelievable. And it's interesting because I look at also policies, when we look at even the school year, when we look at a school year being 9 months, and why do we keep it that way? And you know who fought against that? It was places like summer camps and Kings Island and those amusement parks. Those are the ones that fought against going to a year-round school. If you think about it, socially, emotionally, psychologically, it's better for kids to come to school for 3 months. Let's have an intense 3 months and take a break, and then come again for 3 months and take a break. That probably is better for them and their learning capabilities than let's put them in for 9 months and then take 3 months off, or 2.5 months off. And you taught in the school. You know that at the beginning of the year, we're intense and everything, but by the time that testing comes around, by March, April, everybody's burned out. Everybody, the students, the teachers, everybody's burned out. And by May, you're just hanging on. Let's just get to the end of the year and get those kids out. As long as nobody's bleeding and nothing's broken, great. We had a school day. And so, so you look at, I'm sorry, my mind even jumped, like the school day. We have said for years that it is better for elementary kids to start the school day earlier, and high school kids to start the school day later. But we have not switched it for a lot of reasons. But, so again, that picture that you had where it was, this one. Yeah. And you were saying we need to flip that around. And I 100% agree with you. As soon as you said that, I was like, yes, absolutely. We need to put students absolutely first. What is social, emotional, psychologically, educationally, what is better for these students first, in conjunction with parents? School choice, that's a whole nother thing. But we don't. We start here and work our way down. And boy, by God, teachers, you better make those kids do what we thought was the best up here. And it's ridiculous. And I get what they're saying up here, but guess what? The money also is in the same, it fits within this pattern. Money is up here, and by the time the money trickles down and gets down to these lowly teacher salaries, we wonder why it's not effective for implementing the policies that were created way up here. And as a school counselor and as a support personnel within the school, or working with special ed kids, the money is not there. If you want this testing, if you want all of this stuff, then you need to put, well, my dad used to say, don't let your mouth write a check that your ass can't cash. And let me tell you, these guys are writing checks, but aren't willing to anyway, they're not really willing to put money where it needs to go. Anyway. So thank you for this. I went 10 minutes. Gosh, I kept trying to trim this down. But thank you so much for making sure everything that you're saying that everything is that is fluid. I love this here. This will help me frame up what I'm going to be doing for this particular class or for my final project. I don't know. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for these lectures, the way you're doing them. I love it because normally I think I would have been working all day, and if I had to drive up to Oxford, work all day, drive up to Oxford, sit in class, and take what few little active brain cells are left and try to pay attention in class. This way, I can get up on a Saturday morning. Thank God you are not seeing me because my hair is all over my head, but I can get my cup of coffee. And when I am mentally able to really absorb what is being said, I can pull up your lecture. I can pause it. I can take notes on it. I can reflect on it. I can go back to the reading, then hit play. So this really works well. I don't know if we'll ever be able to keep this throughout the rest of the time I'm at Miami University, but thank you. I appreciate all of your recordings.